Hey there, welcome back once again. It's time for the Golden Age of DC Comics 365 Days, where I am going through this beloved hardcover coffee table book given to me about 2 decades ago by one of my best friends. It's been surfing my coffee table ever since. I peek through it, I read it. People come over, they're like, "Oh, look at this book. It's really cool." And always has been a great source of conversation. So what I want to do is recreate that spirit of the conversations we would have in the comic book shops. And so hopefully if you're tuned in right now, you love comic books just as much as I do. And we are going through this 2004 Abrams Press book, curated by Les Daniels, Chip Kidd, and Geoff Spear, and they wrote all the blurbs and everything. I have the link for this in the description to Amazon. Last time I checked, it's under $8 brand new. So it would look great on your coffee table too. And maybe you can play along at home. So I'm going to use this book for its intended purpose. It's a page a day, and I'm going to crack it open to today's date. It is May the 21st. We're going to look at some comic book art. We're going to read the blurb, and then we're going to talk about comic books for a few minutes. Heck, we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. We really are. So let's get to it. Just so you know that the Golden Age of DC Comics runs 1938 through 1955. The Silver Age is 1956 to 1970. And remember this, because we're coming back to this a little later on. The Bronze Age begins in 1970 and goes to 1985. I'm a Bronze Age baby. And apparently it's called the Copper Age, which begins in 1985. And let's talk more about the different ages of comic books. Bring it up in the comment section. We can talk about it. I would love to. But let's crack open this book. Let's look at some art, and let's read the blurb. This is the Green Arrow and Speedy. Yeah, let's see. Well, let's read. Okay, this is art by George Papp. This is from Adventure Comics number 161 from February of 1951. Green Arrow's alter ego, Oliver Queen, was a wealthy playboy like Batman's Bruce Wayne. He also had a young partner and a stylized vehicle called the Arrow Car. All of them were summoned to the scene of a crime by a light in the sky called the Arrow Signal. DC editor Mort Weisinger, who created the series in 1941, always insisted that it was not an imitation of Batman, but others had their doubts. The formats were undoubtedly similar, although the most obvious inspiration for Green Arrow was Robin Hood. In later years, G.A. would become an anti-establishment radical like the old outlaw. And we're going to look at the art one more time. We're going to talk a little bit about Green Arrow. And we're going to have Speedy. That's Roy. Roy says, like, the arrow signal. I thought the quiet around here was too good to last. That's my kid's voice, my teenager breaking puberty voice. How's that? There will be no rest for us until every criminal in town is behind bars. And then just a glimpse of the next sequential art panel. And, but yeah, so the Bronze Age, it begins in 1970, and Green Arrow has a lot to do with that. I'm going to read this from the wiki. There is no one single event that can be said to herald the beginning of the Bronze Age. Instead, a number of events at the beginning of the 1970s, taken together, can be seen as a shift away from the tone of the comics in the previous decade. One such event was the April 1970 issue of Green Lantern, which added Green Arrow as a title character. The series was written by Denny O'Neil and penciled by the legendary Neil Adams. Inking was done by Adams or Dick Giordano. The focused on relevance, as Green Lantern was exposed to poverty and experienced self-doubt. And later on in 1970, Jack Kirby left Marvel Comics for DC, and that was huge. But we're going to read a little bit about Green Arrow's beginnings. Green Arrow and Speedy first appeared in More Fun Comics, number 73, cover dated November of 1941. And let's see, it was also based on The Green Archer, a novel by Edgar Wallace, and retooled the concept into a superhero archer with obvious Batman influences. And Green Arrow began as a backup feature, and but within months, Green Arrow and Speedy replaced Dr. Fate and Spectre as the cover feature for More Fun Comics. They appeared in More Fun until issue 107. They moved to Adventure Comics from issues 103 to issue 269 in February of 1960. And also Speedy, to let you know, he was a member of the original Teen Titans that had Robin, the first Robin. It had Speedy, it had Aqualad, it had Kid Flash, and Wonder Girl, Donna Troy, Wonder Woman's little sister, and sometimes Wonder Girl was Diana as a young girl too. That's like continuity. Like, you know, it's such a double-edged sword. It cuts for us, and it cuts us as well. You know, if we're not careful. And but in 1969 and 1970, we're already into now the Silver Age of comics. So in the mid-60s, his Green Arrow's look had changed. They changed it from he had red gloves, and they changed it to green gloves, and he had a G symbol now that had an arrow point as like one of the serifs. And so it was stylized. It was a logo, and that was his belt buckle now. And he had a Van Dyke beard, which is the mustache and the pointy chin part. And that's how we probably know Green Arrow when you think of him, is you see the beard, or maybe even the live action CW show as well, who is the same character as well. Notably, this Green Arrow of the Golden Age, he dies. Literally, he's dead. There's no rebirth for him, unless it was in the New 52. But this character gets killed by one of the Anti-Monitor's shadow demons in one of the chapters of 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths. And that was it for the Golden Age Green Arrow. Yeah, the Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age to current age. That Green Arrow has lived on. He's still the same kind of character. He represents a lot of street level awareness. Like part of the going to the Bronze Age, switching Oliver Queen's character. Oliver Queen loses his fortune, and he becomes having O'Neill followed up on Green Arrow's new appearance by completely remaking the character's attitude in JLA 75, cover dated November of 1969, having Oliver Queen lose his fortune and become an outspoken advocate for the underprivileged and the political left wing. And they also turned teammate Black Canary into a love interest for Oliver Queen. And then came the legendary team-up with Green Lantern, who was unabashedly a very right-wing and conservative. And so you had this exposure to each other's value systems, yet still meeting in the middle as teammates and literally saving each other's lives and protecting each other, all the while not liking each other's politics, yet respecting each other as humans. And I think that is something we might have even lost today. And I don't really like talking about the content of modern comic books, or even my opinion of them. They just exist, and they either sell or they don't sell. And either they are superhero stories told for superhero fans, or they're stories by new creators trying to reach that new fan base that may or may not be out there. Those are conversations for another show and another day and another time. Because today we are talking about the golden age DC Comics. And you know what? We're going to be talking about comic books every day for the rest of the year. So tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern US, and we'll find out who we're talking about when we turn the page tomorrow. And yeah, we've been talking about Green Arrow today, and who's very influential in the turning of the Silver to Bronze Ages. And honestly, one of my favorite characters. I used to have this DC dictionary growing up, and it was illustrated, and an ABC dictionary for kids. And there was this one panel that Batman and Green Arrow had switched costumes. So there you have the blonde Van Dyke beard sticking out of the chin of the familiar pointed ear cowl. So I just remember that very fondly. But you know what? Like and subscribe if you could be so kind. I would love to earn your subscription. We talk about cooking on this station. I'm a professional chef. The What's Cooking playlist, check it out. I'm a spiritual guy, an amateur theologian, an ordained minister. Hashtag lighten up. It's about enlightenment and how spirituality can help bring you a better daily life. And it's working for me. I still struggle. I still have bad moments, but you know what? I can call upon my spirituality like a superpower. And I, am so grateful to have this in my utility belt. You can too. So tune in. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless. Namaste. Good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.